The collegiate swimmer Riley Gaines was attacked at San Francisco State University for turning up at a Turning Point USA event to speak about transgenders competing in female sports. Now, Riley Gaines competed with the swimmer known as Leah Thomas, transgender athlete formerly known as, I believe, Will Thomas or something along the lines of that. She competed against him, tied with him, and the trophy was given to him because it would look better in the eyes of the public, or her, or, you know, I mean zero disrespect, but you know what I'm trying to say. She came to a Turning Point USA event to speak, and she was literally physically attacked by the people who were protesting her showing up there. We got to look at this because this is just craziness, bro.
Former elite college swimmer says that she was ambushed and physically hit by trans rights protesters after speaking at San Francisco State University. Riley Gaines posted video on Twitter last night saying she was confronted by a trans rights activist. Gaines is a former competitor of controversial trans swimmer Leah Thomas. Gaines says police escorted her to safety and that she was forced to barricade for 3 hours in a classroom. The university...
3 hours in a classroom. Here's my thing, right? These universities need to get inside of their heads. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with Riley Gaines or not, this is a university, not an asylum, not a prison. If you ideologically disagree with somebody, by all means, turn up to their event, get the microphone if they're handing it out for Q&As, and debate that person. A university is supposed to be a place of philosophical, ideological, political, anything in the realm of human thoughts, how it pertains to society, our religious beliefs, our laws, anything pertaining to how we operate as a society. A university is supposed to be the place that facilitates debate, critical ideas, critical thought, discussion. A university is supposed to be a place of disagreement, but peaceful disagreement, not attacking somebody because you disagree with them. Even if they are a transphobe, even if they are a racist, no matter what, a university is a place where we debate and discuss ideas. Some of the most groundbreaking discoveries take place at universities. Not just science labs funded by the government, universities as well. Well, they are also funded by the government, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's sickening, right? Because I'm a liberal. I would consider myself a fairly left-leaning guy, you know, and yet it seems like the left is so adamant on trying to bully people, trying to strong-arm people into agreeing with them. And what y'all don't understand is that this is going to push people further and further away from the left. You're not gaining supporters by physically assaulting people. It's not happening. You cannot physically assault Riley Gaines for having a problem with trans athletes competing in women's sports. If that's how you're going to handle that disagreement, guess what's going to happen? People aren't going to listen. People aren't going to want to hear what trans people and trans activists have to say. Everybody should have a voice. Everybody should be listened to, and we shouldn't marginalize or sequester or treat trans people like they don't belong. But discussions have to be had about trans participation, male to female participation in female sports. We got to talk about it. There's got to be some sort of nuanced discussion and solution to the problem. Because throwing people who are 6 foot whatever, big broad shoulders, super long arms into these races with these young women who spent their entire life trying to get to this moment so they could win the gold. We're just going to sit here and act like that's okay? We're going to sit here and act like that's normal to let somebody just hop over and take the gold from these young women who are fighting their whole lives to get to this collegiate level, and then to have it all stripped away by somebody with genetic advantages they could never hope to acquire? We got to have a discussion. I'm not saying trans athletes should be banned, but we got to have a legitimate discussion about what's going on. We can't just beat folk up because we disagree with folk. We got to have a genuine discussion.
Says police did not make any arrests, but that it is conducting an investigation. The attack happened after Gaines spoke last night to students at a Turning Point USA event at SF State. She says she is not against transgender athletes competing, but believes they have an unfair advantage in women's athletics, and there should be more dialogue about how to make athletics more inclusive.
She's not wrong. She's absolutely not wrong. There are certain biological changes that certain trans people will have depending upon when they transition. Your bone density, the thickness of your bones, the width of your bones, how broad your shoulders are, how narrow your hips are in comparison to the broadness of your shoulders, the length of your limbs. There are certain changes that cannot be undone that give you an unbelievable advantage. Motor functions of a man. You get used to using a male, adult, or late teenage body, that's almost lifelong. Those motor functions don't just go away. Once you get used to working in that kind of body, it's like the idea that we can just take people who didn't transition early in life and never got to experience the full effect of testosterone and all the other hormonal changes. The idea that we can take those people and throw them with all of their advantages. They didn't transition early, they transitioned late. So we're going to take them and throw them with all of these insane advantages into a sport with women who have been training their entire lives, dreaming of the day that they would finally compete at the highest level and achieve the gold, achieve the W, take the dub. And this is what we got going on, bro. We got to think, bro, it's not just and here's the thing, right? Here's what people got to also understand. I hate to say this, but it is the truth. Society is never going to prioritize trans women over cis women. This is never going to happen. So we're going to have to find a way where we can make a space where people can make a space for everybody in a nuanced way. This idea that we can just throw trans people anywhere and just expect it to just work is not, it's just not realistic. It's not realistic. Not every single trans athlete can compete with women. Not all of them can. Sorry, some of them got too big bones. Some of their bones are too dense, bones too thick, shoulders too wide, chest too big. I'm sorry, it's the facts. It's just the facts. Once you get that testosterone, once you go through these hormonal changes, it creates changes that cannot be undone. Now, should trans athletes be completely banned from women's sports? No. If they transition extremely early and tests are done that prove that they have no real advantage at all, by all means. And if the female athletes consent to competing against that individual, by all means, let it fly. Let it be what it's going to be, right? But if we're taking people with clear genetic advantages from being a biological male and going through puberty and throwing them into these sports because we want to be inclusive, we're not helping the trans community, we're hurting it. Because when these people send their daughters to go compete and someone who is trans but has the biological capabilities of a male comes in and dusts their daughters, do you think these people are going to be pro-trans? You think these people are going to be open to any sort of integration of trans people into these sports? No. And people are going to try to compare it to race, but it's not the same. The racial differences between blacks and whites in terms of athletics is just not the same. Blacks and whites can equally compete in sports. Men and women cannot. So we have to have a mature discussion about this. And I listened to Leah Thomas talk about the entire thing, and my mind is blown hearing her speak about what took place when she raced Leah Thomas. I'm hearing Riley Gaines talk about it. I'm like, bro, this story cannot possibly be fucking real, but it's real. It's crazy out here, bro. It's crazy. We've gone crazy.
Is when you look up Will Thomas at this point, you can see that they were ranked 462nd at best.
Yeah, couldn't cut it.
Will Thomas is Leah Thomas's dead name.
In the men's division. And so seeing that on paper, I thought surely the NCAA wouldn't let this person compete with us. But of course, that's not what we saw. And so that first day at our NCAA championships, we all sat on the sidelines as Leah Thomas became the fastest female in the country, winning a national title in the 500 freestyle.
Bruh, this dude was ranked, this individual was ranked he was a 400 ranked swimmer, bro. He was ranked so low. 400th ranked swimmer and becomes the fastest female swimmer ever after competing with biological women. So we're going to crush all these women's dreams so we can accommodate somebody who retains look at his head. Look at his fucking head. Look at his neck, his jaw. He has retained so much of his male. Look at his shoulder width. He's a big dog. Look at him, bro. This is the guy. This is the individual, that we're going to sit here and throw against women and just say that it's okay. We got to be more nuanced than this. I'm not anti-trans. I'm all for it. I'm all for trans people competing in sports, but women need to be able to consent to this because you don't hear about women transitioning to being a man and fucking up men in sports. You don't hear about it. You don't hear about women transitioning to being a man and fucking dudes up in boxing or beating dudes in basketball. You never hear about that. It's always when men transition to being a female, retaining the biological advantages of being a man and fucking these women's dreams all the way up. And we're not acknowledging the fact that these cis women's dreams are going down the drain, bro. If my daughter trained her whole life only to get smoked by a person who transitioned to being a female after developing all of the hormonal changes of a grown man, and this ain't no just small dude, it's a big dude, it's about 6'4", neck thick, jaw wide, shoulders wide. This is who my daughter's competing against. You got me fucked all the way up. I'm sorry. Now, if you say that, you transphobic. If you say that, you're transphobic. This is the state of the country that we're in, bro. We're going down delusion drain, bro. We're going down a drain of delusion. I'm not against trans people competing in sports, but we have to be nuanced. We have to be reasonable about talking about this, because if we're not going to be helping trans people. We're going to be hurting them. The goal is to make trans people feel accepted and loved and cared for in this society like everyone else, because that's what they deserve as Americans in this society. However, there are nuanced topics that you cannot solve by trying to jump Riley Gaines at a Turning Point USA event. Whoop-de-doo. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Beating out, Olympians, American record holders, the fastest females of all time. And that next day was when Leah and I raced each other, and we swam the 200 freestyle, and crazily enough, we tied. So when we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And so upon tying, I go behind the awards podium where they give you these like dinky little trophies and they parade you out. But the NCAA official looks at me and says, "Great job, y'all tied. The trophy goes to Leah.
What?
We'll eventually mail you yours." And so I kind of look at him and I quickly question him, and I'm like, "Okay, I understand there's one trophy, don't account for ties, but what's your thought process on giving it to Leah? Why are you so adamant?" And he said, "Well, for photo purposes, Leah has to have it."
Wow. Yeah.
Yo, this is what is happening to us? What is happening? It is possible. I know this sounds crazy, but it is possible for trans people to compete in sports. It is possible for trans people to be accepted in this society without derailing the hopes and dreams of biological women. It's possible. I know it sounds crazy to some people on the far fringe left, but it is very much possible. Very much possible. We need to talk about the fact that it is not okay to destroy cisgendered women's dreams. We created an entire different division of sports for women so they could walk away feeling like a winner, bro. We created that so that they could win. Imagine if we decided, you know what? There's no differences between men and women in this world. So, Ioana and Jacek, you could just go in there with Conor McGregor and we call it a day. What? That's what we doing now? John Jones and Valentina Shevchenko, that's what we go. That's the country we living in now. That's what we gonna do. Get real, bro. Get real. What kind of world are we, what are we doing? When someone transitions after going through puberty as a boy, it could be going into the physical state of a man, and then transitioning, the thickness of this man's neck, the thickness of his skull, the width of his jaw, the width of his shoulders. This is not a female, bro. This is someone who still has the biological advantages of a man competing against cisgendered women. It's not okay. This is not okay. And yet we're living in a society now where we are willing to completely disrespect nature and ignore the reality of the situation to accommodate ideas that just don't fit. Trans people should compete in sports. However, if you transition after you've acquired all of these biological advantages, it's not fair for you to then compete and destroy these people's dreams. I'm sorry. There's going to have to be some sort of nuanced accommodation that takes place, but we cannot just destroy women's dreams all on account of delusion. I'm sorry. And then for folk to be sitting there beating on Riley Gaines, what y'all gain from that? No pun intended. What do you accomplish with that? What are you accomplishing for trans people with that? You're not making this look like this is not smart. Trans people are less than 1% of the population. If people feel like This is a psychotic, crazy movement. They're not going to accommodate trans folk. And we don't want a society where trans folk aren't being accommodated. But we got to take into account that, number one, people are not going to sit there and prioritize trans women over cis women. It's never going to happen. When you start trying to physically assault somebody for saying, hey, let's have a nuanced conversation about sports, you're only making the trans movement suffer unnecessary losses. And that's not what we want as a society where we try to make room for as many people as possible and accommodate everybody equally. Lord have mercy, bro. Lord have mercy on this on this world, because we're losing sense. We're losing our sense, just our sense in general. I don't know what's going on with us, but it ain't right. It ain't right, unfortunately. They beating on Riley Gaines because she got a difference in opinion. At a university, a place of intellectual growth, of a place of an exchange of ideas. That's what y'all want to do. Lord have mercy, bro. This is what we doing. We beating folk up at universities because we have a strong disagreement with them. How a university could ever even let something like that take place is disgusting to me. You were at a university. Conduct yourself accordingly. Beating on folk because you disagree with them. Disgusting. It's just disgusting. And she's suing the university, and rightfully so, because it's like we've seen this happen too much. The battle at Berkeley, like this is just ridiculous. What are you fighting at a university, bro? This is what we doing? No decorum, no civility, just foolishness, bro. A place of an exchange of ideas, and this is what y'all do, fighting folk. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm